Hello friends, in this video we will study chapter 1, 3 questions, which is an English story taken from class 7th, subject English, book Honeycomb. We will read this chapter and do question answers as they come while reading. Let's start. Before you read, a king has 3 questions and he is seeking answers to them. What are the questions? Does the king get what he wants? Comprehension 1. The thought came to a certain king that he would never fail if he knew 3 things. These 3 things were: what is the right time to begin something? Which people should he listen to? What is the most important thing for him to do? The king, therefore, sent messengers throughout his kingdom, promising a large sum of money to anyone who would answer these 3 questions. Many wise men came to the king, but they all answered his questions differently. In reply to the first question, some said the king must prepare a timetable and then follow it strictly. Only in this way, they said, could he do everything at its proper time. Others said that it was impossible to decide in advance the right time for doing something. The king should notice all that was going on, avoid foolish pleasures, and always do whatever seemed necessary at that time. Yet others said that the king needed a council of wise men who would help him act at the proper time. Meaning of council: a group of people chosen to give advice or to make rules. This was because one man would find it impossible to decide correctly without help from others, the right time for every action. But then others said that there were some things which could be urgent. These things could not wait for the decision of the council. In order to decide the right time for doing something, it is necessary to look into the future, and only magicians could do that. The king, therefore, would have to go to magicians. In their answers to the second question, some said that the people most necessary to the king were his counselors. Meaning of counselors: members of the council. Others said the priests. A few others chose the doctors, and yet others said that his soldiers were the most necessary. To the third question, some said science, others chose fighting, and yet others religious worship. As the answers to his questions were so different, the king was not satisfied and gave no reward. Instead, he decided to seek the advice of a certain hermit, who was widely known for his wisdom. Meaning of hermit: a person who lives alone and leads a simple life. The hermit lived in a wood which he never left. He saw no one but simple people, and so the king put on ordinary clothes. Meaning of wood and woods: a small forest. Before he reached the hermit's hut, the king left his horse with his bodyguard and went on alone. As the king came near the hermit's hut, he saw the hermit digging the ground in front of his hut. He greeted the king and continued digging. The hermit was old and weak, and so he breathed heavily. The king went up to the hermit and said, "I have come to you, wise hermit, to ask you to answer 3 questions. How can I learn to do the right thing at the right time? Who are the people I need most? And what affairs are the most important?" Meaning of affairs: things, matters, business. The hermit listened to the king, but did not speak. He went on digging. "You are tired," said the king. "Let me take the spade and work in your place." "Thanks," said the hermit, giving the king his spade. Then he sat down on the ground. When the king had dug 2 beds, he stopped and repeated his questions. The hermit gave no answer, but stood up, stretching out his hand for the spade, and said, "Now you rest and let me work." But the king did not give him the spade and continued to dig. Meaning of beds: small patches of ground for plants. 1 hour passed, then another. The sun went down behind the trees, and at last the king stuck the spade into the ground and said, "I came to you, wise man, for an answer to my questions. If you can give me no answer, tell me so, and I will return home." "Here comes someone running," said the hermit. Comprehension check. Question 1. Why did the king want to know answers to 3 questions? Answer. The king wanted to know the answers to 3 questions as he wished to become a great ruler. Question 2. Messengers were sent throughout the kingdom. Mark your choice. Answer. Second, to find answers to the questions. Comprehension 2. The king turned around and saw a bearded man running towards them. His hands were pressed against his stomach, from which blood was flowing. When he reached the king, he fainted and fell to the ground. Meaning of fainted, lost consciousness. The king and the hermit removed the man's clothing and found a large wound in his stomach. The king washed and covered it with his handkerchief, but the blood would not stop flowing. The king redressed the wound until at last the bleeding stopped. Meaning of redressed, dressed again. The man felt better and asked for something to drink. The king brought fresh water and gave it to him. By this time the sun had set and the air was cool. The king with the hermit's help carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. The man closed his eyes and lay quiet. The king, tired by his walk and the work he had done, lay down on the floor and slept through the night. When he awoke, it was several minutes before he could remember where he was or who the strange bearded man lying on the bed was. "Forgive me," said the bearded man in a weak voice, when he saw that the king was awake. "I do not know you and have nothing to forgive you for," said the king. "You do not know me, but I know you. I am that enemy of yours who swore revenge on you, because you put my brother to death and seized my property." Meaning of seized, took by force. "I knew you had gone alone to see that hermit, and I made up my mind to kill you on your way home. But the day passed and you did not return. So I left my hiding place and I came upon your bodyguard, who recognized me and wounded me. I escaped from him, but I should have died if you had not dressed my wounds. I wished to kill you, and you have saved my life. Now, if I live, I will serve you as your most faithful servant and will order my sons to do the same. Forgive me." Meaning of faithful, loyal and true. The king was very happy to have made peace with his enemy so easily and to have won him over as a friend. He not only forgave him but said he would send his servants and his own doctor to look after him, and he promised to give back the man his property. Leaving the wounded man, the king went out of the hut and looked round for the hermit. Before going away, he wished once more to get answers to his questions. The hermit was on his knees sowing seeds in the beds that had been dug the day before. The king went up to the hermit and said, "For the last time, I beg you to answer my questions. Wise man, you have already been answered," said the hermit, still bending down to the ground and looking up at the king as he stood before him. "How have I been answered? What do you mean? Do you not see?" replied the hermit. "If you had not pitied my weakness yesterday and had not dug these beds for me, you would have gone away. Then that man would have attacked you and you would have wished you had stayed with me. So the most important time was when you were digging the beds, and I was the most important man, and to do me good was your most important business. Afterwards, when the man ran to us, the most important time was when you were caring for him, because if you had not dressed his wounds, he would have died without having made peace with you. So he was the most important man, and what you did for him was your most important business. Remember then, there is only one time that is important, and that time is now. It is the most important time, because it is the only time we have any power to act. The most necessary person is the person you are with at a particular moment, for no one knows what will happen in the future and whether we will meet anyone else. The most important business is to do that person good, because we were sent into this world for that purpose alone. Leo Tolstoy. Retold. Friends, we have completed the chapter. Now let's do the question answers from the comprehension. Comprehension check. Complete the following sentences by adding the appropriate parts of the sentences given in the box. Answer. Many wise men answered the king's question, but their answers were so varied that the king was not satisfied. Second, someone suggested that there should be a council of wise men to help the king act at the right time. Third, someone else suggested that the king should have a timetable and follow it strictly. Next, the king requested the hermit to answer 3 questions. Next, the king washed and dressed the bearded man's wound, but the bleeding would not stop. Friends, we have completed these questions. Now let's proceed to the next section, working with text. Answer the following questions. Question 1. Why was the king advised to go to magicians? Answer. Some of the wise men thought that to decide the right time to do something, one must look into the future and only magicians were able to do that. So, they advised the king to go to the magicians. Question 2. In answer to the second question, whose advice did the people say would be important to the king? Answer. In answer to the second question, some wise men believed that the king should have some counselors to give him advice. Some others said priests. Some other wise men said that doctors' advice was most important, and yet others believed that soldiers were the most important. Question 3. What suggestions were made in answer to the third question? Answer. In answer to the third question, that is, what is the most important thing to do? Some wise men responded that science was the most important thing. Some others believed that fighting was the most crucial thing to do for a king, and the others said that religious worship was the most important thing to do. Question 4. Did the wise men win the reward? If not, why not? Answer. No, none of the wise men won the reward. This is because all of them came up with different answers and the king was not satisfied with any of those answers. Question 5. How did the king and the hermit help the wounded man? Answer. First of all, the king cleaned the wound by washing it. Then he covered the wound with his handkerchief. He continued to dress the wound until the bleeding stopped entirely. The king gave some water to the wounded man to drink. The king and the hermit carried the wounded man inside the hut and let him take rest in the hut in the night. Question 6. Who was the bearded man? Answer. The bearded man was the king's enemy. He had come there to take revenge from the king of his brother's death and take back his property. Question 2. Why did he ask for the king's forgiveness? Answer. He asked for the king's forgiveness because he came to kill the king and the king saved his life. Question 7. The king forgave the bearded man. What did he do to show his forgiveness? Answer. The king forgave the bearded man. He showed his forgiveness by offering to send doctor and servants to take care of the wounded man. He also promised to return his property too. Question 8. What were the hermit's answers to the three questions? Write each answer separately. Which answer do you like most and why? Answer. The hermit's answer to the three questions were: first, the right time to do something is now because it is the only time when we can act. Second, the most important person is the person you are with at a particular moment because we don't know what will happen in the future. Third, the most important thing to do is to do good to the person because we are here on the earth for that purpose alone. Working with language. Question 1. Match items in list A and their meanings in list B. Use any three of the above words in sentences of your own. You may change the form of the word. Answer. Wounded, severely injured, awoke, got up from sleep, forgive, pardon, faithful, loyal, pity, feel sorry for, beds, small patches of ground for plants, return, give back. Sentences with three words. First, Pallavi had to return the bag to her friend. Second, one should be faithful to one's friends. Third, the dreadful dream awoke Reshma from sleep. Question 2. Each of the following sentences have two blanks. Fill in the blanks with appropriate forms of word given in the brackets. Answer. First, the judge said that only fresh evidence would make him change his judgment. Second, I didn't notice any serious difference of opinion among the debaters, although they differed from one another over small points. Third, it's fairly simple question to answer, but will you accept my answer as final? Fourth, it isn't necessary that necessity should always be the mother of invention. Fifth, hermits are wise men. How they acquire their wisdom no one can tell. Sixth, the committee has decided to make Jagdish captain of the team. The decision is likely to please everyone. Seventh, asking for forgiveness is as noble as willingness to forgive. Speaking and writing. Question 1. Imagine you are the king. Narrate the incident of your meeting the hermit. Begin like this. The wise man answered my questions, but I was not satisfied with their answers. One day I decided to go and meet the hermit. Answer. Who was renowned for his wisdom. I went to him and saw him digging the earth. I asked him if he could answer the three questions. I sought answers too. but he continued to dig the earth and did not respond at all. I felt that he was getting tired, so I offered to help him in digging. He handed over the spade to me. I kept digging for a while. Then I repeated my questions and asked if he would answer them. Even then, there was no response from his side. Then he pointed towards a wounded man approaching us. Question 2. Imagine you are the hermit. Write briefly the incident of your meeting the king. Begin like this. One day I was digging in my garden. A man in ordinary clothes came to see me. I knew he was the king. Answer. I knew he was the king but remained calm. He told me that he sought answers to 3 questions and wanted me to answer those. I politely greeted him and then continued to dig the earth. I was continuously digging and felt tired. Seeing this, the king offered me help. I accepted and handed over the spade to him. He began to dig, and after some time, he again asked me the same 3 questions. I still chose not to respond and offered him help if he was tired. He refused and continued to dig. After some time, I saw a wounded man approaching us. Friends, in this video, we have read the chapter and also did all the question answers from this chapter. If you like the video, kindly share it with your friends. In case you have not subscribed to my channel, kindly subscribe it and press the bell icon so that new video notifications could reach you. We'll meet in the next video. Till then, take care and respect your elders. I am Vaibhav signing off. Thank you for watching.